All right, welcome back to Bluebird Territory presented by Miller Lite. We're recording after a pretty dramatic Blue Jays win. Dylan Cease looks like he never left. Looks like the best version we may have ever seen of him, not only in a Jays uniform. 58% whiff. I don't know if you can get much better than that. But there was some other news, and that is going to be our Miller Lite cold open. Fellas, for the second time in his big league career, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was hitting leadoff. The only other time he did it was the last game of the 2024 season when the Jays were trying to get him at bats to chase 200 hits. So this is really the first time it's legit. We all know Vladdy hasn't been right for some time. Kevin, what are you seeing and what did you make of this decision?
Yeah, no, I was a little bit shocked. I found out when I got to the field yesterday that he was leading off. They hand us a little printout of the scorecard, and I'm like, wait, Vladdy's leading off? But at the end of the day, you can't really bench this guy. You can't take him out of lineup. I think they gave him a day off, a couple weeks ago, and there's some validity in that. Like, there's the opportunity to like mentally get away, but potentially get a chance to just take a lot of swings that day. And I hate when they put him in a game after they do that. Sometimes you just need that full day off, allow yourself to kind of reset mechanically, put a lot of work in. But yeah, I just think, clearly there's something mechanically off, which is leading to his timing being off. But to me, it really comes down to the decision making and the lack of decision making at some points. And, I talked about it a little bit on the broadcast yesterday. There was a particular at bat versus Christopher Sanchez, and you could tell, and even going back when Popkins got ejected, there was this clear plan and identity of, hey, let's raise the bottom up, and the reason he got kicked out of the game is he wanted to let his guys know that, hey, we're not getting results, but the plan is working, and he felt like, and it might not have been those pitches in that particular at bat that he was arguing, but the fact his guy was up there, he was letting Vladdy know, like, I believe in you, stay with the plan. But later in that at bat, or later in that game in the sixth inning, he chased the changeup down. You'll get kind of like the head nod, okay, like, we're human, we're gonna make mistakes. To me, that's like, okay, the ball started here, that was too low, right? And then he gets a pitch that's above that, and he takes that one for a strike, and then you really see the head nod, the disappointment, like he swings the bat, like, shit, that's the one I should have swung at, right? And then he chases and Christopher Sanchez, predominantly to righties, is going to be the sinker moving away, the changeup moving away. He swings at a pitch that doesn't even start on the plate, right? And he fights it off. The next pitch is a fastball inside, a pitch that probably he wants back. He probably wants to pull the trigger on, but his eyes are moving so much at home plate right now that he's losing track of the plate. And I've been there as a player. I know exactly what it feels like. The plate's only 16 inches wide, but when your eyes are constantly moving, right, the plate now feels like the entire batter's box. And to me, it looks like he's trying to cover not only the entirety of the plate, side to side, up and down, but maybe then some, right? And I saw Donaldson today on the driving range at the Joe Carter Classic, and I say, hey, you would know better than me. Like, let's not even get into mechanics. Like, what when they ask me like what's going wrong with Vladdy, what can I tell the people, right? And he said the more concerning thing right now is the fact that he's not taking his walks, right? He made a good analogy to like Joey Votto. Joey Votto like would go through these periods of time where he wouldn't be hitting for a ton of power, but he was walking a ton, right? He just stayed so disciplined in his approach that if he didn't get anything to hit, he just wouldn't swing the bat. And right now, I know Vladdy's feeling the pressure of trying to be the guy or wanting to be the guy, but there really hasn't been someone who's stepped up in that lineup that's really forced teams to have to go after him, right? So I think if Vladdy had 3 home runs at this point, but his on base percentage was 450 because he has walked 65 times, I think it would be a different conversation. But the fact that he is feeling the pressure of trying to do too much and he's kind of giving into it, I think that's where my concern is. I think he needs to get back, and he's not his dad. He's not going to go up there and be this swing at everything, have a ton of success. Like, Vlad is different than his dad. He is a very disciplined hitter, understands the strike zone. And I think the fact that they moved him into the leadoff role at least mentally takes him out of this idea that he has to be the guy, that you're going to be in these situations where you got to drive in runs and be a run producer. Get back to what you do well, get on base, set the table for others. And I even kind of like the idea of him getting a first pitch fastball to lead off the game. It didn't happen, or he saw a ball yesterday, but I thought maybe facing a guy, most kind of guaranteed thing in sports, the first pitch fastball of the game would be kind of this maybe jump start to him. But yeah, I think right now, I think that's a great spot in the lineup for him. So he can kind of get back to basics, understand like, hey, let's just get back to who you are, see pitches, shrink that strike zone, and have an understanding of what you're trying to look for, and maybe he gets going.
Yeah, the funny thing in all this is that he's not or not the funny thing, but I see the struggle is he's not punishing those mistakes, and when they are up in the zone, I think he's giving so much leverage to the pitchers. You mentioned Christopher Sanchez, KP, and it's like, shoot, if he keeps swinging at that down and away changeup, I'm gonna keep throwing it there because his eyes are all over the place. So you almost have to give credit to the starting pitchers or the pitchers on the opposing side because right now they're seeing a guy that's like chasing everywhere, and I guarantee you those scouting reports are like, hey, start in the zone and then we expand from there and make him chase. He's not taking his walks, which it is concerning for somebody like Vladdy, a power hitter like Vladdy. You would think like, all right, I'm going to get my pitch. I see my zone. And KP did such a great job of the breakdown yesterday pregame where he showed him in October and he showed him when I think it was Schlittler who came inside, fastball inside, and boom, he dropped the head, home run. And you're seeing a confident Vladdy in those clips, and right now it's just like he's caught in between. And I mean, as they say, right, you can't think and hit at the same time. And right now, I feel like there's so much going on in his head, and it's almost like he's trying to get out of this slump with one swing. He even says it like, "Oh, it's going to take one swing. It's going to take one swing." But I think he, like KP mentioned, and I'm not one to talk hitting, but I understand from the pitching standpoint. Right now, it just seems like it's a guy that's trying to figure out that. Trying to get back to the basics. And it's easier said than done because there's so much pressure that everyone's talking about it. Everyone's talking about his power. Everyone's talking about him beating the ball to the ground. He's a ground ball machine. He's this, he's that. He's not running balls out. But again, Vladdy I think he understands who he is and he's comfortable in who he is. But it's just more of all right, how do I find my zone again? How do I find my sweet spot again? And how do I not expand away from my sweet spot? And right now, it just seems like he's just, the pitchers are doing a good job of like, all right, we'll start down and away, strike. And if he swings, cool. If he doesn't, no big deal. And then from there, they start expanding. And yeah, the leadoff spot for him right now. It's probably the best spot. It's going to come up a lot more times in the lineup. So they're probably trying to get him more at bats during the game too, so that he gets more comfortable. And I know it's like beating a dead horse, and we've been saying it. He's going to get out of it, and you're kind of hoping he does because he is a big part of this lineup. And with guys coming back and stuff like that, you see a little bit of the pain. I mean, I know what it's like to struggle. KP knows what it's like to struggle. It's not fun. So you just hope that he does get out of it. Again, this is the face of the franchise, and everyone likes to shit on him right now. But this is the guy that cares and wants the best for the team. I mean, it'd be different, right? If they were like yesterday, they win, he's out there, he's still having fun, he's putting the jacket on, all that stuff. So like, there's just a lot of stuff that goes unnoticed, but he's still the ultimate team guy. And I think at the end of the day, he wants the best for the team and he wants to win.
I want to preface this with I'm not the type of person, baseball observer, reporter who, when a guy doesn't sprint down to first base after a ground ball to shortstop, is like asking for that guy to be benched. It's just like, I get that it's a long season. Vladdy plays 162 games basically every year. Part of that is management. But I feel like, especially when he's not hitting, the fact that sometimes he hits a ground ball, puts his head down, and jogs gets on a lot of fans' nerves. And I was wondering what your guys' perspective is on that. Ricky, we'll start with you.
I don't know. I mean, KP would probably be the guy to ask, but I think there's certain guys, right? There's certain guys that are in the lineup that are going to hit a ground ball and they're going to try and beat it out because those are the burners. And then you have your guys like, for example, when I was playing, it was like the Miguel Cabreras, the Vernon Wells, the Albert Pujols, those guys that if they hit a ground ball, they were going to jog. It's not worth blowing out a hammy or twisting an ankle or something like that. That's not what they get paid to do. They get paid to drive in runs, hit home runs, hit balls in the gap, and whatever it is, whatever the offensive category is. And I think there's certain guys in the lineup. I feel like if it was maybe the game on the line, you'd probably see a different sprint out of Vladdy, right? I mean, but when it's in the first inning or the third inning and it's a ground ball to the short, more often than not, you're going to probably, in a big league shortstop's going to make that play 99% of the time. So it's not even like, even if you like blow it down first baseline, hard 90, you're probably still going to be out. So I think the lineup usually has those certain burners. I think we saw it yesterday, right? With Andres Jimenez, he fielded that ball. He took his time a little bit, and Scott was coming down the line fast, and he beat it out. So I think that's made for certain guys in the lineup, not guys like. And I don't mean to sound like he doesn't care or anything like that, but it's just that's not what he does.
Yeah, I mean, I think baseball fans across the game saw Acuna get hurt yesterday trying to leg out a ball, and he's a guy who gets probably criticized more than anyone, especially when I was in Atlanta about not running hard down the line. But I'm all for it because I know what it's like to be an everyday player, and I know what it's like to want to play 162 games. And I think one year I played 161. When I was an everyday player, I averaged in the 155s. There's a certain way to do it, though. There was a couple plays, over the last road trip that, me as a fan and me as someone who, you know, knows what it's like to be someone's teammate that does things like that, it would upset me a little bit, especially when things aren't going well for the player because it comes off differently when you're not successful. There's a tasteful way to, you know, preserve the body. I think when it comes to, and I think a perfect example, if you watched the replay yesterday, that ball that he got a hit on to Alec Boehm, he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't giving his best effort out of the box, and then he saw the throw go a little wide, and then he turned it on. It really should be your best effort out of the box until a big league shortstop feels it in his glove securely, delivers the throw on line, and that's kind of when you kind of taper down a little bit, But it should always be your best effort until you're going to be out. You can't necessarily assume the out, and I think sometimes he flirts the line with that, and I know with everything that he's going through right now, I know what it's like to be frustrated and be like, shit, I hit another ground ball to third base. I hit another ground ball to shortstop, and especially when you hit him hard and you're going to be out. But there is that fine line of not giving any effort and then giving the right amount of effort where you are preserving your body. You know that you're going to be out. Like a routine play, a hard hit ball to the shortstop, like shouldn't be bang bang. It should be like, okay, he feels it. He takes his couple, pumps in his glove, throws it out, then you come. It shouldn't be like, okay, we're still waiting for you to get down the line. So there is a tasteful way to do it, and I'll never knock someone who's going out there playing every single day. It's extremely hard, especially a lot of people don't know the work that goes in before you go out on the field, especially when you're struggling. The amount of swings he's probably taking right now, the ground balls that he's taking, like it's hard. But sometimes, like a play like yesterday, that ball to Bohm, like that's one of those plays where if he's busting out of the box and that throws on line and he beats it, maybe that's a play that kind of gets him going. You're like, man, a hit, the fact that the throw was offline and then he turned it on and was safe is like, he's still safe, right? He still feel good as a player, but there's certain times where that effort is probably needed a little bit more. And sometimes a little effort play, a little hustle play is kind of what gets you going a little bit, whether it's a first to third, beating out an infield hit, taking extra base, we think about Vlad and some of like the moments, and they're not even these home runs he hits. It's him coming around third base, hair on fire, head first slide into home plate. So it is part of his game, to give that extra effort, and hopefully it's something that let's hope he figures it out offensively, like with one swing of the bat. But sometimes it could take one of those type of plays that kind of gets him going too.
Yeah, I feel like it'd just be a different discussion if there was multiple plays where it's like, oh, had he sprinted, he would have been safe. I can't think of a single one of those this year where he's cost himself a hit because of the jogging. And
Well,
I also go ahead, Ricky. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead. I got you.
I also just wanted to say I know the Jays, the way in their hitters meetings, and I'm sure, or I assume it was similar back when you played, Kevin, was they told the hitters, ball hit to third base, it's an out. Ball hit to shortstop today, it might not be an out, so get down the line. Like you scout the opposing infielders enough to know which guy's going to make the play and which guy, hey, maybe there's a 15% chance this one's sailing wide, so get down the line. And so,
No, you 100% talk about those things. It's not just about how we're going to game plan against that particular starter, the bullpen and stuff, but we know, hey, he's a little shaky at third base. Like any ball hit to him, we're going hard down the line. Hey, this guy's one of the best shortstops in the game. If you hit it to him, buddy, you're probably out. And JJ Hardy was one of those guys. No matter how hard you ran down the line, he just had the best clock that I've ever seen. You were always out, and it was frustrating because the harder you tried to get down there, the closer it was, but you were always out, right? So you do have those guys. We know outfield arms, and we didn't talk about this on this show, but Andres Jimenez scoring on that ball to first base. That was great effort by him, but that was also a decision that was made in those meetings. They knew Pete Alonso's not very accurate throwing to the bases. He doesn't like to throw to the bases. So it's a calculated risk. Those things going into the game. All these things are discussed.
Yeah, and I was gonna say the one thing you appreciate about Vladdy is, on the defensive side, he goes hard. There's no like lack of like, oh, he's taking his offensive game into a defensive approach, and I think that's what you appreciate about him because if it comes down to a ball, diving for a ball or running down a ball down the right field line, he's doing it at 100%. So all those things get taken into consideration. Should get taken into consideration. He's a guy that doesn't. I feel like he's a Gold Glover for a reason, and anytime you see him that man do the splits, it's pretty impressive. So I think there's a lot of aspects of his game that he maybe the jogging down the line rubs people the wrong way, but there's other aspects of his game that he goes all out and you appreciate about his game.
yeah, I don't think anyone will ever critique when Vladdy's going first to third or first to home. I have never seen a freight train on the tracks quite like that. There is some pretty good news from the Jays' win yesterday, and that was the return of Dylan Cease. We're going to talk about it on the other side of this quick break. I'm on the run and on the road all the time during baseball season. I'm going to different road ballparks and watching games all over. Very rarely do I get to just watch a game on my couch with my buddies cracking some ice cold Miller Lights. That's the dream. Miller Lite is the official beer of baseball in Canada. Just 90 calories in a 355 milliliter can. Ice cold, great taste. Really hits during baseball season. Why not go grab some Miller Lights today? Because your game time is Miller time. Please celebrate responsibly. Must be legal drinking age. All right, fellas. Dylan Cease, back from his first ever injured list stint, punched out 11, gave the Jays 6 innings, told John Schneider he could have given him more, and John's like, it's okay. You just got off the injured list with a soft tissue injury. We'll take it from here, and that is going to be our Bet365 deep dive. All right, Ricky, 58% whiff. I believe that is the most by a Blue Jays starter since the swing data was tracked. I don't know, maybe there was a Ricky Romero start in there pre-tracking.
I don't know.
Could have beat that, but we'll never know. We will never know. What did you make of Dylan Cease's return?
Well, I'll let, before you said that, I have the most whiffs in a start in Toronto Blue Jays history. They showed it on the telecast. It goes Dylan Cease, yesterday, Kevin Gausman in 2023, Brandon Morrow in 2010, and Robbie Ray in 2021. So no, I'm not on that list, but
could have been in 2009. I don't know. Were they tracking in 2009? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, that's ancient nowadays, man. No, but you know what, man? Unbelievable start by him. And I think I heard, I saw a little bit of the post game KP saying, I think anytime a guy comes off the IL, you hope 5 innings and you're like, man, all right. The number one thing you're always worried about, you're like, all right, did he get out healthy? Is the hamstring feeling good? That's the number one thing. Like, we got to make sure of that. That felt great. It looked great. And to me, just the velocity to go from 97 and night to 98 and then drop I was seeing his changeup. I mean, I think his changeup is very underrated, and if he started throwing it more, it's going to make him that much better. To drop from 98 to 79 miles per hour, that's not even fair. And I'm sure KP would agree with that. I mean, you're sitting geared up, fastball, and then boom, 79 mile per hour changeup. You got no chance. It's just one of those things where I think the more comfortable he gets, and with that pitch, it's going to be that much more valuable because we know he can spin it. We know he can, he's got that high velocity up in the zone. But to watch what he did yesterday to that lineup was beyond impressive. And it's not just that everyone does it on a daily basis. There's no starters that go out and do that just that's the capability, that's the ceiling that Dylan Cease has. And for a long time we've always said, like, we want him getting deeper into games. And now yesterday is a great example. He got deep into the game and he still got his punch outs. Like, he was still in double digits. And that just tells you that, not only is he striking out, but he's getting quick outs when he isn't striking out. So it gives him the ability to be able to go deeper into the game. And the fact that he wanted to go back out there for the seventh inning, I mean, just tells you how good he's feeling. If this team's going to turn it around, it's obviously going to start with the pitching staff. We know what they've been able to do throughout the whole season. They've kind of been pretty good, but I think for this second half push, once the first half ends and everyone comes back, it's gonna continue to be Dylan Cease, Kevin Gosman, and obviously they get Max Scherzer back, Shane Beaver, and the rest of the crew, Trey Savage. So it was good to see. Again, Dylan Cease is, I mean, there's a reason why they gave him all that money. I think everyone saw it. I still, to this day, remember texting Pete Walker about it and him saying, "Man, I'm beyond ecstatic to have this guy on board." And I know he had some stuff for him, and they were impressed with, I think, the presentation that they showed him. And obviously, it's showing right now. I think he's starting to believe in his stuff even more, and the more comfortable he gets, again, when you have a Max Scherzer and a Shane Beaver next to you, and they're probably saying, "Hey, man, trust your stuff. Like, be in the zone a little bit more." And yesterday, he was in the zone. He was flat out nasty. And when you're able to do that, when you're able to throw three pitches for a strike against a good offense, I don't care how good the offense is, the pitching's most likely going to win.
Hey, what's that saying? If it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. That's what he is when it comes to an ace. Like, he checks all the boxes of what a legitimate ace is. I guess the only really knock on him, through his first handful of starts, it wasn't the stuff. It wasn't the strikeout numbers. It wasn't the swing and miss. It was the fact that he couldn't go deeper into games. And over his last 5 starts before the IL, we're including the one that he left in the game, it was 7 innings, 7 innings, 7 innings. Then he faced the Yankees lineup and he went 5 innings. His pitch count got up. He gave up 5 runs. And then he faced Pittsburgh, and I think he left at 4 1/3, but I think he was only at like 65, 68 pitches, if my memory serves me correct. So he was well on his way, to go into the seventh inning that game. So that would have been 4 out of his last 5 starts. I don't think it could have gone any better. Obviously, you talked about kind of the historical context of, swing and miss in his start yesterday, the best start in Blue Jays history. And I think it was one of the best in Major League history. If what I heard yesterday was accurate, but it couldn't have gone any better. The fact also that he didn't really have to exerted himself left to right getting off the mound. I don't think he even had to cover first base. Just allows him, 5 more days. And I think they have an off day. And I don't know how they're going to kind of manage the rotation if they keep everyone on schedule where he's going to get that 6th day. But, the fact that no one in the Phillies lineup really tested him by laying down a bunt or, a play at first base is a win for him and the Blue Jays. So the hamstring's only going to get better and better.
You would have.
I
You
I
would have
would have.
dropped
Oh,
one.
I for sure would have. Like, when an elite pitcher who's going to be hard to square up like that is coming off a hamstring injury, someone in your lineup better do it. Whether it's me, or I would have thought like Justin Crawford would have tried to do it, knowing his speed, right? And call it what you want, but when you're competitive and you're trying to win a game, and this guy's coming off a hamstring injury, you got to test it early. And just no one in that lineup did. No one even hit like a slow roller to first where he had to cover. So you talk about best case scenario, not only just the stuff, but the fact that he didn't really have to really test the hamstring is a huge win. And I just think back to maybe like the 3rd inning, Mitch. I don't know if you saw this or Ricky on the broadcast, but there was a conversation with Valenzuela and Pete Walker, and I don't know exactly what was said, but it seems something along the lines of his fastball is unhittable tonight. I don't know if like Pete saw like metrically, or he was just visually seeing the swings that guys had, and he was like pounding Valenzuela on the chest, like letting him know, like, throw more fastballs. They can't touch it tonight. And I mean, he was sitting in the upper 90s all game. The changeup is, I don't, he's almost, to me, he's almost getting to a point as a hitter. And there's a handful of those guys out there where their stuff doesn't, overlay enough where you feel like one path of the bat is going to run into a couple of pitches, maybe it's fastball. If I'm on his fastball, maybe I get the slider if my direction's right where I'm trying to hit the fastball. But the difference in speed between his fastball and changeup is almost to the point where you have to pick one or the other. And it makes it so difficult as a hitter. The fact that he can go from 98 to 79 is an absolute joke. With similar arm action and speed, is crazy. That I think when the Blue Jays signed him up for this duration of his career, obviously the fact that he hadn't been on the IL, and knock on wood, it was a very minor thing, and it was a lower body thing, not an arm injury. They knew about the stuff. They knew about him striking out the world, but I felt like they knew that they could take him to the next level. And I think the changeup is that pitch that's starting to kind of be the pitch that I think is going to take him to already a really good pitcher, borderline all-star every year, where I think we could start talking about this guy being in the Cy Young conversation, year after year after year. I think that's how good the changeup has allowed him to be. We know he has a knack for spinning the ball, not only the spin on the fastball, but the breaking stuff. But you add this 79-mile-an-hour changeup into the mix. It's getting to a point as a hitter, you have to be like, I have to sit on something because I can't cover them all.
Yeah, and it's not like the fastball is straight either. That thing is like rising up in the zone, which is impressive that he's able to do that. Um, Again, and you got to give credit to Valenzuela. I mean, he's been the fact that he's learned this pitching staff the way he has and learning their strengths. I hate it shaking pitchers off. Obviously, there's not much shaking now with the pitch com and stuff like that. You call a pitch and boom, you go with it. But the fact that these guys are trusting Valenzuela and what he's calling, it just looks like they're in sync. He's seeing stuff. I mean, I relied on my catchers so much, and the fact that somebody like Valenzuela, they have the best seat in the house. They're able to see feet. They able to see the way these hitters sometimes move forward, move back in the box, and and I'm sure they're communicating whatever they see. And the fact that they kept trusting that heater, and then boom, let's drop a changeup right there, and then a slider or curveball. I'm not sure which one it is. I mean, to me, it looks like a slider on TV, but I think they call it a curveball, right, or a sweeper.
I think it's a slider.
Um, it's impressive, man. It's fun when you have that type of night where you have three pitches going for you. It's just you're almost like, all right, this is my night here.
Yeah, the way he talks about his changeup, he's like, I don't really have great feel for it. Like, I don't really know where it's going. But like, if as long as I can get it in the zone, because of what you guys were talking about, the difference from his fastball, it's like he had 9 swings against it yesterday, 8 swing and misses on a changeup, which like
it's 20
insane.
miles less, bro.
Yeah.
20 miles less than a heater. Like he throws 98, 99, and the fact that he's able to drop it to 79, that's just not fair. I mean, it isn't. It's crazy when you're able to kill that much speed. Usually, you want between 10 to 12 miles off your fastball to changeup difference. And I was a guy who threw a changeup pretty hard too. I mean, I was like 90, 94, 92, 94, but my changeup was like 86, 88. But I had really good action on it. It was like a split action. His is just like it stays in the zone and it just disappears, which is, again, I mean, once he commands that and he trusts it even more, he's just going to be that much more deadly.
Yeah, not fair. I think about sums up Dylan Cease last night, and that has been our Bet365 deep dive. Baseball fans, there's nothing better than a day at the ballpark, but there's nothing worse than waiting in long lines around the ballpark. That's why Bet365 has a 5-run early payout. When the team you're riding goes up 5 runs at any point in the game, they'll pay your bet out right then and there, win or lose. No waiting required. Besides, the earlier you get paid, the earlier you can go back for another hot dog. Bet365, download the app and see what early payout's all about. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only, please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has concerns about gambling, visit ConnexOntario.ca. Terms and conditions apply.
We love our dog Bella, who splays out in the open sun on our floor like she's an underwear model, and that's why we love her so much, to scratch her belly.
She's a cutie, that Bella. And a quick message from today's sponsor, the ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program. If you're frantically looking for what to do with your pup when they have an issue, the program offers customizable accident and illness plans, making it easier to get your pet the care they need. When you enroll in an ASPCA Pet Health Insurance plan, you could get a $25 Amazon gift card. It's a little treat for you while you're doing something great for your pet. To explore coverage, visit aspcapetinsurance.com/FOUL. That's aspcapetinsurance.com/FOUL. Eligibility restrictions apply. Visit aspcapetinsurance.com/Amazon terms for more info. This is a paid advertisement. Insurance is underwritten by either Independence American Insurance Company or United States Fire Insurance Company and produced by PTZ Insurance Agency Limited. The ASPCA is not an insurer and is not engaged in the business of insurance.
All right, fellas. The Jays kind of finally have a rotation again, a full rotation again. Max Scherzer is also going to come back on Wednesday. We can maybe spend a little more time breaking down what he looks like when we actually see what he looks like. But what do you think, Ricky, are realistic expectations for Max coming off the injured list here?
5 innings. That's pretty much what you're expecting. I mean, obviously before he hit the IL, he had a couple rough starts. So you hope that he's back in sync. I think at the end of the day, you have a chance to win a series against this good Phillies team. You're 2 games under 500. This gives them another opportunity to get back to 500. So in reality, I think it's a pretty big game. I mean, I don't think we could keep sweeping stuff under the rug and saying, oh, yeah, well, let's let him get in sync and hope he figures it out. No, man, I think if Max Scherzer is going to go today, he's got to be on point. He's got to give the team a chance to win. And you're expecting I feel like the bullpen's pretty fresh for the most part. So if you're able to get 5, obviously 6 innings would be perfect. I don't know how many times they'll let him see the part of the lineup or how they're going to go about it. But I think the biggest thing is obviously if he's coming back, Max is a different beast. He operates differently, and I'm sure he's going to be pitching like his hair's on fire. But at the end of the day, again, you want to see a quality start. I think when you're in this situation that they're in right now, it's no more about like getting a feel for things or hoping he figures it out 2 or 3 starts from now. It's win now, and I expect him to be Max. I expect him to come back on point and throw strikes and give the team a chance to win. That's pretty much what you're hoping for. Obviously, um, with the offense the way it's gone, you hope that they have a big game and they're able to give a bit of a cushion to Max and again, I think when you're a team that's been fighting for their life the entire season, a win's good here. It puts you at a game under 500, and and hopefully with the guys coming back, obviously if Max has a good start, he can carry it over to the next start, and we start seeing this rotation go full blast once Beaver's back. So um, yeah, I'm expecting him to just be the same old Max that we're accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, I think our expectations for him have changed. Us meaning the fans, the media, and I would hope that Max Scherzer's expectations of himself has changed a little bit. This guy's going to Cooperstown, but in his mind, we're not sure if he understands he's not the same guy he was a couple years ago. Like it feels like at some point there has to be this look yourself in the mirror conversation, be like, look, I'm going to Cooperstown. I don't have the same stuff. Doesn't mean I can't be effective. And not to say Patrick Corbin was Cooperstown bound, but the fact that he was able to kind of reinvent himself into, hey, there's nothing wrong with Max Scherzer being your 5 in your rotation, right? Like, I don't think the expectation for him to go out every single start and completely dominate. I think he needs to be a guy that is 5 and dive, gives you a chance to win every time out, throws his 75 to 95 pitches. And I think that's good enough. If you're getting depth out of, guys like Cease and Gosman and Savage, like it's okay to have this back end of the rotation not have to be a bona fide number 1, So I think for Max, the biggest thing is, can he go out there and not just start today, but can he bounce back in 5 days and then 5 days and then 5 days? It just can't kind of be this revolving door every time something goes wrong, with an outing or with him, he goes and misses some time, right? I wouldn't imagine this is the last time that he goes on the shelf. He is 41 years old. He's had, a laundry list of health issues here, but when he does start, can he just give you those quality 5 innings? Doesn't need to be a shutout. Can he give up, somewhere between 1 and 3 runs every time out? Exactly what Patrick Corbin has done. I got a chance to, walk home yesterday with Corbin too. And we were just kind of talking about the year a little bit. And he's like, yeah, last one wasn't really good, and the first one wasn't really good. And I was like, well, how many starts have you made? 12. I'm like, so you went 10 consecutive starts that were really, really good starts and you gave your team a chance to win. And he's like, yeah, I think that's what Max needs to do. It's like, he's had some bad ones, but like, let's just find a way every time you go out, give your team a chance to win a game. You don't need to be the Hall of Fame pitcher that we all know you are and you're going to Cooperstown, but just be a quality starter. Go out there, let it eat and don't hold back. I think he doesn't need to think, 6, 7, 8 innings. Like, let's let that thing eat for 5 innings, buddy, and then we'll get to the bullpen. And because with him coming back, with Cease coming back, the bullpen is in such better shape too. Think about a Scherzer for 5 innings or 4 2/3, and then a Miles for 2, and then you can bridge the back end of the bullpen, right? Like, that is a very realistic possibility of a plan moving forward.
Yeah, having Miles and Woods Richardson back there, just like, and not having to be in the rotation as bulk guys, it's like changes everything. Because like, if Gosman went 2 innings 2 weeks ago, that like ruined the next 10 days of the Jays pitching plans. With the full rotation, that's just not the case anymore. As long as you got the big dogs going 6+, Corbin and Scherzer going 5. So that, I think, is a pretty reasonable expectation. See how it goes, and we'll come back to talk about it. Thanks everyone for listening to this episode of Bluebird Territory.
If you made it this far, you'll love this next video. Check it out right here. And make sure you've subscribed to Bluebird Territory for more Jays coverage like this multiple times a week.